We have some technology and teams were both late, a little bit late, so I think we're ready to get started now. And I'd like to start with check-in, Rob. Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Robert Dodig. I am well. I have no time constraints. We have Dr. Burr is missing. Is she on this team? She's gonna be late, yeah. Gotcha. And Teresa stepped out. She's here, but she had a quick item to take care of, so she'll be here. No elephants, and my expectation is to make progress.
I'm Will Rothenberg. I'm Director of Compensation and Labor Relations for the district. I am doing well, no time constraints. Missing, it looks like Victoria Davis on the SPALC side. My contacts are as strong as they should be. No elephants, no expectations, and I'll go with make progress.
Good evening, I'm Heather Leonard, the Director of Staffing and Talent Management. I'm doing well this evening. I believe the missing have been noted. I don't have any time constraints, no elephants, and expectations. I'll go with make progress tonight.
Good afternoon. I'm doing well. My name is Kevin Kelpie. I'm the Director of Payroll. I have no time constraints, and it looks like Barbara Cedino has been listed. I have no elephants. Expectations are to make progress.
Good afternoon. My name is Amy Desamore. I'm fine. No time constraints, no elephants, and sounds good for expectations. Make progress.
Good evening, good afternoon, whatever it is at this point. My name is Roger Lloyd. I'm from Transportation. I'm doing well. I do not have any time constraints. Missing has been noticed. No elephants, and I'd like to continue to make progress.
Good afternoon, this is Course McIntosh, Assistant School Board Attorney with the Office of Legal Services. I'm doing fine, and I have no time constraints tonight. The missing has been duly noted. I have no elephants and expectations to make progress.
Good afternoon, my name is Jason Curtis, Principal at Hector Caffrey Elementary School. I am doing amazing. I have no time constraints. Missing has been noted. Don't have any elephants that I'm aware of, and my expectation is to further the conversation.
My name is Jamie Browder. I'm the principal at Orangewood Elementary School. I am marvelous. No time constraints. Missing have been noted. No elephants, and my expectation is to make progress.
Hi, I'm Shannon Johnston. I'm representing Academic Services. I am doing fantastic. Time constraints, none. Missing's been noted, no elephants. And expectation is I'll go with further the conversation.
Good afternoon, my name is Michael Robichaud, Director of Insurance and Benefits Management. I'm doing well. I do not have any time constraints. Missing is noted, no elephants in the room, and I will go with make progress.
Good afternoon. My name is Candy Messenger. I'm Director of Food and Nutrition Services. I have no time constraints. Missing has been noted. I do not have any elephants, and my expectations is further the conversation.
Thank you.
Jonathan Tuttle. I'm FBA Bargaining Specialist here with SPALC. And I have no time constraints. I don't know who's missing. I have no elephants, and I expect to share some pretty valuable information with the group.
Good afternoon, my name is Lois Dubay. I'm the Chief Negotiator for SPALC. I have no time constraints, no elephants. Victoria Davis is missing. I think that was noted already. No elephants, and my expectations is to make progress.
Good evening. My name is Arlise Williams. I am the president of SPALC. I'm doing well. No time constraints. Missing has been noted. No elephant. Expectation is to make progress. And time,
You're good, Arlie.
Good afternoon, my name is Patrice Coates. I am doing awesome, no time constraints, missing has been noted, no elephants, and expectations, I'm gonna go with further the conversation.
Hello, my name is Roger Wilson. I'm doing fine. No time constraints. Who's missing has been noted. No elephants. Expectation, make progress.
Hello, I'm Laura Rosen, bookkeeper for Island Coast High School. I'm doing great. Thank you for coming on my birthday tonight. Who's missing, already been noted, no elephants, expectations, let's make progress.
I'm Jacqueline Weinberger, clerk typist, East Lee County High School. I am good, no time constraints. Missing has been noted, no elephants. I'd like to make positive progress, please.
Go ahead, Chris.
Good afternoon, my name is Chris Cox. I'm doing well, I have no time constraints. Missing's been noted, no elephants, expectations, I'd like to make progress.
Good afternoon, my name is Deborah Evans. I'm doing well, no time restraints. It been mentioned who was missing, no expectation. And I'm sorry. No elephants, expectation to make progress.
Thank you.
My name is Amy French. I'm doing well today. I do not have any time constraints, or Don and I are both here. I do not have any elephants, so my expectations are to help you meet all of your expectations.
And good afternoon, I'm Donna Mutzenard. I'm doing well today. I have no time constraints. And as Amy said, we are here to help you reach your expectations. So with that, you did get copies of the minutes from our last meeting. Email, I think it was last week. So does anybody have any corrections or deletions to the minutes? Okay, go ahead.
Let's see, on page 2, under story article 10, bullet number 3. It said Lee County does not have mileage. Should that be millage?
Yes.
That was the only one.
That's it?
That's all that I got to. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, anybody else see anything when they were reading through the minutes? Oh, that's an easy one tonight. All right, with that correction from miles to millage, can we accept the minutes from our last meeting? Excellent, thank you. All right, tonight the agenda is to continue our conversation on compensation. And last time we met, Amy gave a presentation of where the district stands at this moment. And we had a little story. So where would we like to go from here? I know Jonathan has some information, as he said. You want to start with that? Is that okay with everybody? And then we can go from there for our story.
Sure, the pleasure is theirs. Yeah.
All right, great. Thanks, Rob. It's all yours.
All right, so I just want to let everybody know our team met last week, and we know that we were all given a proposal of $2.7 million. We were all really rather shocked about that amount that was put on the table, and we know that it's not enough for our employees to feel valued or supported or even make a livable wage living here in Lee County. We discussed looking at an 8% increase across the board. That would help us retain our folks and make their morale a little bit better. We know it's not what they deserve, but it's a start. And Jonathan's here to talk to you about that this evening.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everybody. And good afternoon back there. Thank you all for coming here after a hard day of work. Good to see you. I did something a little bit different. I know we're used to PowerPoints and everything, but I couldn't really fit my data onto PowerPoint slides. So I've got a bunch of, that's not it. Talk amongst yourselves for a minute.
Gotta love technology.
Hey, Will, what'd you do with my stuff? I'm gonna unplug the screen if that's okay.
Okay.
All right, well, that's a relief.
Oh, good, okay. All right, Jonathan, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Donna. All right, so very briefly, just kind of want to review where we are, where some others are, compare some settlements that we have in the area. And there's a desire among our folks to move from market rate back to salary schedule. I think a recent survey was at 68% showing support for going back to the salary schedule. And then we have some comparables. And when we say comparables, we mean the contiguous and similar sized counties, similar size being within 25% of our size. All right. So again, as Lois said, there's a $2.7 million offer on the table for now until after the salary study is completed. Salary study may provide additional compensation this year, but I think it's pretty clear to just about everybody that this got started way too late. We've collected some proposals. I don't know if they've all been reviewed or not, but the work certainly has not begun yet. So we're talking maybe the spring, maybe late spring. I don't know exactly when this thing will be completed. But if we're looking at $2.7 million spread among the 4,000 employees, and then wait until spring, late spring, who knows, it's just too late for now. So we're recommending, of course, go ahead with salary study, bring SPALC in, bring TALC in, bring whoever's involved in your salary schedules, bring us all together, work on it through the year. But in the meantime, let's get some money into these people's pockets, bring them closer on par with their peers around Southwest Florida. And speaking of which, we do have some other settlements. This is not an exhaustive list, it's what we know. What we have, Collier just settled, I think a week or two ago. It ranges from 8 to 13%. Charlotte, 6% plus step. Dade, 4% for non-referendum employees. They've got a big referendum over there, and their employees reap a lot of the benefits. DeSoto and Hendry, both 6% across the board. Monroe, a very expensive district, no doubt about it, but they increased our salary schedule by $2.50 an hour. Check that, $1.50 on the schedule, and it's $1 increase for their steps. Here's our position. We're looking at that 2.7 million, and just very simple math, dividing it among the 4,100 employees, comes out to $652 a year, or $3.18 a day, 44 cents an hour, 2.5%. So, and again, we don't know what's going to happen with the salary schedule. We don't know what's going to happen with the conversations after the salary study is done. But essentially, we're looking at offering these folks 2.5% for the bulk, vast majority of this school year. And by then, we're probably so close to the end of the school year that this is going to be a wash, and now we're talking about next year's negotiations. Again, we urge that salary study, continue with it, but plan on implementation for next year. So we are rejecting that, and we are proposing an 8% across the board increase. And this 8%, well, I'll tell you about that. So the cost for the 8%, and again, very simple math coming up with your costs. We get these data sheets from the district, And one of the columns on this data sheet is the annual rate, this column O. So I'll just go just a touch, and it'll show annual salary for all 4,100 employees. Very simply, we just added it all together, came up with 105 million, took 8% of that. So it's almost $8.5 million for this 8% increase. We've already offered the 2.7. So really, all we're looking for is $5.7 million today. And time, I really think, is of the essence. We saw in the presentation at the last meeting, and certainly at the TALC meeting, it's recruitment, it's retention, it's morale, and these folks could use a morale booster, and 8% will go a long way towards that. So who are we talking about when we're talking about SPALC? There are 80 some odd positions in this unit. We're not going to go through all of them. I highlighted the first 4, which make up 2/3 of our unit. These are instructional support. DOE calls them paras. Food and nutrition services, bus drivers, and custodians. That's 2/3 of our unit right there. So these are the 4 groups that we're going to look at and do our comparables with. But when we talked a minute ago about revising the salary schedule, bringing market people back in, I'm just going to show a very brief glimpse of some of the work that's entailed in getting this done. And it's an awful lot, and again, I don't think we have time. I think we need to get some money into our folks' pockets. So, for the salary schedule, this is just playing with the salary schedule. First thing we tried to do is decompress. I don't know if you can see those numbers, but on step 1, pay grade 3, you're starting off at $15 an hour. Last year was difficult. Mandatory, everybody's got to make 15. That's a heavy hit for everybody. Easiest thing to do is bring everybody to 15. Compress everybody to 15, and now you're looking at seasoned veterans making the same as somebody who's just been hired. And different pay grades making the same amount. We all acknowledge there are problems with this. So one of the first things you want to do when you're looking at your salary schedule is decompress it. If you're going to have an effective year working here, well, next year you get a step increase. You get something. So that's the goal of this, and we're not going to spend too much time on this, is decompressing these steps, trying to equalize the step increases at least a little bit, and excuse me, and making it a little bit more equitable. But that's an awful lot of work, and right now you've got, I believe, 574 employees who are actually on the salary schedule. And that leaves 3,500 who are not, who then have to be placed. A lot of work. This might be a starting point for you when you start your conversations about this, maybe tomorrow, I don't know. But the second step of this is positions, the actual position report. Hold on, there it is. I wish I didn't have to hold this microphone. All right. So I went through that data sheet. The first side of this spreadsheet from columns A to G, this is in your contract. You have this in your contract. And from the information from H over to P, most of this is in that data sheet. And this has been organized, this is just organized by count, but you can see the work involved. The work involved in finding out the low hourly rate, the high hourly rate, the average wage, taking these ranges and asking questions about it. And there are an awful lot of questions. We've got somebody here who's been here 40 years. That's 40 years in the district. I don't know if they transferred different positions. I just don't know. Making $15 an hour. So, I mean, there are questions like this that have to be answered that will take time. And we already have a month under our belt. We need to get some money into these folks' pockets sooner rather than later. And again, we're looking for $5.7 million. This goes on for quite a few rows. I'll share that with the team here. When you guys get together, talk about this. This might be a starting point for you. But in the meantime, let's take a look at those 4 positions. All this data comes from the Department of Education. Uh-oh. I'm not liking this. I got this down. Okay, really not sure you can see those numbers from back there. But the yellow highlights are our neighboring districts. The green is us. The green is Lee County. These are the paraprofessionals only. And what I did is I went to the DOE website, took information from them. The difficulty with ESPs, educational support personnel, is they have different calendars. Some might be working 10 months in one district, 11 months in another one. It's difficult. So what I did is I analyzed all this. This is all based on 12 months. So it's all the same. And we came up with an annualized salary for each of these districts. And again, the yellow are our neighbors. The white is are the districts with comparable size, within 25% of our size. And we see Collier and Charlotte, I think those are probably your two main competitors for employees, making half again as much as what our paras are making in Lee County. And all of this information is readily available on the Department of Education website. Food service, please. All right. Food service turns out much better than the paras, but still, room for improvement, of course. We rank 11th in the state here in Lee, but we're behind Hendry and Glades. Glades probably doesn't steal too many employees because, I don't know, what, they got 100 or 2 employees themselves. It's pretty small. And that also influences what you see. With Glades County, as small as they are, it only takes a few employees to really alter their average. So keep that in mind as we go through this thing. It's going to happen again, don't it? Bus drivers, again, Lee is doing a bit better. I think everybody's doing better than the instructional support at the paras. But we are ranked 13th in the state. That's nothing to sneeze at, but here are our neighbors again. 3 of our neighbors are doing better than us. And we got to get the kids to school. I don't have to tell you about bus driver shortages. So we're not faring very, very well. Wait, that one worked. It threw me off. That's because custodian groundskeeper is so long. But so here we are with our custodian groundskeepers. Lee's close to the middle, above half, in the top half anyway, 29th in the state. But again, Collier and Charlotte, significantly above Lee County. So we think in that 8% across the board will at least get us closer while you guys get together and do the heavy lifting on the salary schedule, on moving market rate over. While you're doing that, they're getting some money in their pockets. And teachers, I had to include these because this is your biggest cost. Your teachers are ranked 33rd in the state. And Collier and Charlotte is just, well, way higher. And again, you all know this stuff, but this is Department of Education information on their website. Easy to pull up, and it goes further back than 17, 18. My screen's just not that big. So it was said the other day, reading the newspaper, there's been a lot of news about this, about the budget, and I can't afford the rent. I heard something about selling plasma. Maybe Arlise can talk about that later, I don't know. But a couple statements stood out to me. The school board and superintendent are committed, and this is your statement, school board and superintendent are committed to paying school district staff as much as possible. We remain dedicated to identifying available areas of the budget that can be used to contribute to compensation both now and in the future. That's kind of the purpose of this presentation. I want to help you find some areas. So you guys can read all those numbers, yes? All right, I have sort of an overview here, because I want you to understand the format of this. You can probably make out like 3 columns and a bunch of different rows in this overview. These rows are years. That's a year, that's a year, that's a year. This first column here, whoops, uh-oh. This first column here is the district summary budget. This is submitted to the Department of Education every year. Each district, either late August or September, proposes and approves the final budget for the upcoming school year. Then the DOE gets it, puts it on their website. This second column here is what's called the annual financial report. The annual financial report comes out in September after the school year is over. So you got your budget. While you're sitting down negotiating, you're developing a budget for the next school year. Then you have to wait until the following September for the annual financial report, which tells you what was actually spent. But we don't know until then. I'm not saying it's just a guess. It's far more work than just a guess. It's a determination of how much money it's going to take for the school year, for this district to make it through the school year. That's what goes into the budget. So, you'll see a few highlights here. There's a little orange, a little yellow, and there's one more, a green one or a blue one. Those are some specific areas we'd like to look at. Oh, check that. This next column, I'm going to share this with the office, and I'm sure folks are going to want this. This pink column here shows the difference between what was budgeted and what is actually spent. Here's what we think we're going to need. Here's what we actually spent. And that last column makes up the difference, shows you the difference. So you see how this is kind of laid out. Let's take a minute. Whoops, sorry. Not used to trackpads, that mouse is a tease. All right. So this is the district summary budget, 1920, 2021, 21-22. This is the last year we have complete data for. I know the AFR came out locally here just recently. Actually, I filled that one up. But it takes a few months to get it onto the DOE website. So I think we do have, because you guys just put it out last week, the 22-23 school year budget and AFR. So at the beginning of the school year, while you're in negotiations, you were told last year that it's going to take a little over $1 billion to make it through the school year. This is what it's going to cost us to make it through the school year, a little over $1 billion. What actually happened, and we had to wait until just last week to find out, it only really cost $942 million. That's a significant difference. And if we keep going over to those pink columns, we see it's almost an $83 million difference. And if you go back year after year, you'll see that repeats itself. Over budget the prior year by $134 million. So this is money that's in a budget. And a budget, like everybody knows, a budget is money set aside for things you need or things you want to do. But you don't put it in a budget if you don't plan on spending it. It goes into the budget because I plan on spending this money. But what happens when you don't? And I just want to pick out a few areas because, again, I'm following the lead from the newspaper. We're looking for different areas to find some money. So let's look at the big one, total expenditures. Now, you remember the numbers we just looked at, right? Last year, a little over $1 billion was budgeted. $942 million was actually spent, and the difference is $83 million. This budget just came out for this year. I don't know if it's been approved yet or not. I know it's been presented. I don't know if it's been approved. But the plan is the district needs $1,174 million to make it through this school year. I don't know if you guys can see those numbers from back there, but they only spent $942 million to make it through last school year. And now they've come up with a budget that is $231 million more than was spent last year. Now, That to me seems excessive, especially when we look at the yearly annual increase. All this does is it compares total expenditures year after year. How much more did you spend this year than you spent last year? So the increase back then was 48 million, then 12 million. Here's a close year, 1920, their expenditures only went up about $2 million. Last year was pretty big. Last year, they spent $119 million more than they did the year before. That's okay, that's what it is. No, they planned for that, they budgeted for that. So even with that big jump, more than twice as much as any other increase any other year of 119 million, what's being budgeted is 231 million more than was spent. I will eat my hat if your expenses go up to $231 million this year. All right, I have. So is that unique? Here's the amount over budgeted each year. This is amounts, these are amounts, and again, these are amounts you're planning on spending. You set it aside to spend this money, and you don't spend it. We're looking for $5.7 million. These are the total amounts over budget. These are the percents over budgeted. Question, legitimate question, is that normal? Do other districts do this? Well, I'm sure some do, but I wasn't gonna do all of them. So what I did is I just did the whole state. By doing the whole state, and these numbers are astronomical, of course, it's a big state, but look at the percentages. The percentages over budgeted. From budgeted total expenditures to actual total expenditures. These are minimal percentages. And again, one more look over at us. There's a significant difference. The average of 11% per year. Average of $100 million over budget each year since 16-17. But that's the big picture. What about salaries, where we live? What we're interested in. So there's this thing, it's a line item, it's called a function. The function is called instruction. And what instruction deals with is, as you can imagine, all direct classroom expenditures. So teacher salary and benefits are in there. Also, paras salary and benefits are in there. You got materials and supplies, got a few other things, but those are the big ones, right? Salary for instruction. So if our paras are getting paid out of this function, and they are, we see how that's been over budgeted, just this one part. We're not talking total expenditures, we're just talking about the salary object within the instruction function. On average, over budgeted $37 million each year. Last year was over budgeted $31 million. We are looking for $5.7 million, that's it. And again, we look at, whoops, where'd you go? Sorry. We look at an average increase per year. How much does this object go up? Instruction, 5,100 instruction salaries. Well, one year it went down, but that might be a COVID year and we just gotta forget about those. But on average, you're looking a little bit under $10 million, right? That's how much it increases. And we remember the increase we saw, $231 million, and this is the largest item in their budget. How does this compare statewide? I wish I had a mouse. Okay, again, we're averaging about 11%, over budgeting just the salary object. In the state, here's what we're looking at, statewide average. 1 year, and this happens, nobody wants to see this. There are a lot of districts, obviously, that, or maybe Miami-Dade, a couple big ones, that under budget. We don't want to under budget, but we don't have to over budget to the extent that we do. These are the state averages. And again, here are ours. We're looking for $5.7 million. Another object in that instruction function, these are materials and supplies just for instruction, classroom expenditures. This used to be a categorical, which means districts would receive X amount of dollars from the state, and the state said, here's some money, but you must pay it on this, in this way. That no longer exists. but the district still has bills. This was explained the other night. That's why our base student allocation looks so huge. That used to be called flexible money. That's where we get our raises. But now what you gotta do is pull a lot out of that base student allocation. This is one of them. But we're looking at the actual amounts spent. And I don't know if you can see those numbers from back there, but they're pretty small and the budget is pretty big. You're looking at over budgeting on average by 65%. Last year was our record in spending for materials and supplies. Spent $22 million in materials and supplies. That's good. Kids need materials and supplies. This is good. What was budgeted was $48 million. So even when you almost double what you historically spend in this, you still have $25 million. This isn't even in salary. It can be moved. You make budget amendments throughout the year to cover other functions and objects that are coming up short, so you move money. There's a ton of money in this materials and supplies, historically. And I have a feeling we're going to see it again this year. Across the state, everybody loves to over budget, for some reason, over budget this object. So these are pretty high, but again, nothing like us. All right, come on. Back, hitting the wrong arrow. That's my fault. I was going to blame Will. All right, so where does all this money go? It doesn't all go to the fund balance. A lot of it does. But there is a thing called a fund balance. And a fund balance is basically excess money. Money that's, hold on. There are 5 different types to a fund balance. There's only 2 that we're concerned about. Some of these types cannot be spent. Does that mean? That's everybody. Another Amber Alert? All right. 5 different categories of the fund balance. We're concerned with 2. I don't want to talk about the other 3 because that doesn't matter. You have the assigned and unassigned fund balance. The assigned fund balance is direction from superintendent, school board, let's just call them school board, make different designations for the money. We're going to assign this money for budget shortfall. We're going to assign this money for technology. Whatever assignment they want to make, it's completely up to them. So you've got assigned, and then you've got unassigned. And unassigned is exactly what it says. It's just out there with no designation whatsoever. So with these 2 fund balances, they must, by statute, they must maintain a level of 3% of revenue. 3%, that's state statute, that's a law. I don't know, maybe you guys have a board policy here that has it at 5%. That could be, I don't know. Some counties do, and that's all right. So, looking at this fund balance, it's money at the end of the year, no designation. Here's the problem. You budget how much you're gonna have at the end of the year. So each year, they come out with a total budgeted, assigned, unassigned fund balance for the general fund. While you're sitting here in negotiations, you're hearing, last year you heard, we're gonna have $41 million in our fund balance for assigned and unassigned. And again, this is money available for anything you really want. What actually happened, we found out that next September, it wasn't 41 million, it was 133 million. That's a $91.5 million under budget. So you over budget on appropriations, you under budget on your fund balance, and it happens year after year after year. Percent under budgeted is astronomical. And again, the part that gets me is while you're sitting in negotiations, we're not going to have that much money left. For a county our size, we really should have more than that. This is what we're going to have. Wait till next September, and it's a whole lot more. How does this compare with the state? Hold on. So, statewide, you can still see our percent under budgeted here. Statewide, pretty significant difference statewide with the fund balance. We're going to look at the financial condition, this ratio. Remember we were talking about have to have 3% of revenue in your assigned and unassigned fund balance. Well, here are our percentages. right here, we're looking, what, 4 or 5 times the amount of the requirement? And the state is actually pretty high too, 3 up to 4 times the amount of the requirement. Well, what about large counties like us? Well, there we are. Lee County is 8th largest in the state, and these numbers come from DOE a couple months ago. We've got the fund balances. We've got, let me see if I can do this, hold on. Let me sort by largest amount here. Lee County has 126 million in 21-22, 126 million in their fund balance. Broward County, with 164,000 more students than Lee County, actually has a lower fund balance. A county 2.5 times the size of Lee County has a lower fund balance. And break it down per pupil, it breaks down again. We're very comfortable in our fund balance. About $1,200 per kid, per student. So the problem though, hold on. Before we go to the problem, I just want to show you a visual representation of this. This chart, the blue bars show the budget. This is what we're going to have. The orange bar shows what we actually end up with about a year later. This gray bar is the state requirement, that 3% statutory requirement. And we see our fund balance trending upwards since 1819. And we were comfortable in 1819, but it's only gotten higher since then. And as you can imagine, it's a very similar story when we look at the percentages, same type of thing. The problem with fund balances, we are told, is that it's not recurring. We get recurring money for salary, for materials and supplies. We get these things that we know we're going to keep getting. The fund balance could be a crapshoot. We don't know if it's going to be there. There's nothing designated for this. Well, we faced that problem in Collier County about 10 years ago. Went to impasse, went to a special magistrate hearing, and the special magistrate, among other things, basically shows the district fund balance has been under budgeted by at least 19 million, as much as 42 million every year, and as the union has aptly noted, this balance represents an additional recurring source of income that can be used with confidence if ever needed. There's a lot more to this decision. They ruled in our favor, in the union's favor on this, and it does no harm. Colleagues actually grew after this, after we won this special magistrate hearing. And again, I have copies, I think I sent copies up to the office, and everybody's facing problems. Everybody's got voucher issues, especially this year. There are issues floating around the state, but we're seeing decent settlements around the state. We're looking for $5.7 million. And let's look back, just one was my last slide, I promise. This takes, I wonder if I can do this one-handed. Okay. So I went back as far as I could on the deep, hold on. DOE website goes back a few more years, but they don't divide the fund balance by the 5 categories. It just has fund balance, and that wasn't fair. I just want to look at unassigned and assigned. And I was able to do that going back to 2010. Back to 2010, our worst year here was in 1819, when our fund balance was only $87.8 million at 12%. 12%, again, that's 4 times the required 3% statute calls for. On average, for the past dozen years, we're averaging a 15% ratio, 5 times the amount required by the state. Averaging $100 million, no, check that, sorry, $109.5 million every year. That's the average. Back to 2010, I can't say every year. That's the average. We are looking for $5.7 million. And I might have to shrink that to get these orange bars on this screen. I think it can safely be said, I think we have 13 years here. This is recurring. And in no time did it drop below $85 million. We are looking for $5.7 million. This can happen. There are plenty of areas to find that $5.7 million. I hope this helps with what you're asking for and that news press article. Here are some areas where I think we can find $5.7 million and take care of our employees sooner rather than later. We'll deal with the salary study, we'll deal with market rate, we'll deal with the salary schedule after. We can meet the day after we sign off on this. And we'll roll up our sleeves, get to work, and be ready for next year the right way. That's all. Well, thanks very much.
You may not want to turn it off in case you have to go back and show something.
Oh, okay.
If somebody has questions. Okay. Again, that was a lot of numbers, just like last time we met. So I know it takes a while to digest some of these, so anybody have any comments, questions, need any clarification? Rob?
I will defer to Dr. Desamore. She is the Chief Financial Officer for the school district, so I think it's appropriate that she respond.
Thank you. No questions or clarifications. Hard to say because, I assume we're going to receive a copy of whatever it was, all the things that we were going over. So hard to say having seen this the first time, but there's, I guess, a couple of things that jump out at me. You referred to the state statutory requires 3%, which absolutely is true. The state requires 3%, lest they put you into financial emergency and monitoring. But there is also a difference between, and I think the numbers showed that as well as you show what other counties held, there's a difference between a mandatory and what would necessarily be financially responsible. Carrying a 3% wouldn't allow the district to do things like pay people when we don't have school, like during the times when we have a hurricane, or pay people when emergencies happen, like COVID and things like that. So there's a reason why districts choose to, or anyone with a budget chooses to go beyond what the state required is. So that's piece number one. Number two, with the additions to some of the numbers and the fluctuations that go up and down in the budget, there are lots of different reasons why certain things will happen. So there have been many extraordinary things that have happened to us in the past 3 years, namely COVID and a hurricane, which would greatly impact the numbers that you were showing there. Because when the hurricane happens, there's many expenses that have to happen and many things that have to be budgeted inside of the numbers that you were showing. So many extraordinary circumstances that the budget has to be able to be set and be ready to handle. So generally, I just wanted to, kind of say that in terms of the numbers and the conversation that we are having. Also, there is no, at least, and I believe from the district's point of view, no argument, and in fact, our interests are the same in terms of compensating all of our employees in a way that helps all of us to achieve a livable wage, in a way that helps all of us feel appreciated, that reflects the complications and the importance of jobs. No argument there. I think what we have here possibly is just a matter of timing, and you alluded to it when you were speaking that, all right, the salary study is too late for this year, let's move forward now and then handle that in next year's. And really it is a timing issue because the collective, we had discussed in our last time's meeting, the fact that there were really two different pieces to this. The individual, or the first piece that we talked about was the initial 2.7 million that we talked about. But at the time when we discussed, it was always the initial. There was always a plan to come back and have resources to be able to speak to or to address the issues that, or the resolutions or the solutions that the salary schedule was going to give us. So the 2.7 was never the end of the story, it was only the beginning. And so there was no, so at least from my perspective, and I believe from the district's perspective, we have no argument that, that the number should be greater. And there was never an intent that that was the end of the story, only the beginning. So to me, it appears that maybe that is the discussion in terms of timing or what some options could be related to that. But generally, our interests are the same. It's just a matter of how we get to them, because that wasn't the end of the story. It was just the very beginning.
All right, anybody else? Sure.
Happy about that, okay?
Go ahead.
Well, thank you for that. And I thought I acknowledged that at the beginning of the presentation, the $2.7 million for now, until we get through the salary study and all that. I thought I made that clear, but apparently not, and I apologize for that. The difficulty that we're having, our fear is that it's going to take so long to get through this salary study that this year's negotiations will end with 2.5%, and you're going to start off, even though it's coming later, we don't know when later is. Why don't we move that 2.7 up to 8%? Let's start from there, and then go through our salary study. So I think we're kind of saying the same thing, just our numbers are a bit different. And as far as the hurricanes and other things that are going on, and the vouchers, every district goes through that. We know that. We went through Irma. Haven't seen all the impacts of Ian yet, of course, but we're not suggesting that you dip down to 3% or even 5%. But if you could get down to 10%, that'd be pretty nice. All we're doing is asking that you spend what you say you're going to spend. That's all. You say you're going to spend $30 million more in salary than you actually spent? Well, let's spend that $30 million this year and next year. That's all. Thanks.
Anybody else? Hold your cards, that's it, please. No applause, no talking.
So, as the experienced people on bargaining understand, we get our authority from the superintendent and then the board. So, what we presented to you 2 meetings ago and last meeting is our current authority. You've proposed something, and I really appreciate, Jonathan, your presentation and the effort you all put in to providing us information. It was good. I don't have Jonathan kept saying 5.7 million more. I don't have authority as the chief negotiator tonight to have that. He said, "Do you want my phone?" Unfortunately, I have to get the board all together. So I don't have that. We do anticipate in the very near future an executive session. That doesn't mean I'm gonna come back here and say I have $5.7 million in authority, but we do have an executive session, hopefully planned actually this week. So there could be further discussion after that, but I can't obviously make no promises. I just will convey to them, obviously, what you've said tonight, and see where that lands us. Having said that, we still do have $2.7 million sitting there, and you say you want to get something in your people's pockets. We can agree to something tonight and also talk about coming back after the salary study with an additional sum, with some type of commitment to whatever you want to call it, continue bargaining, reopen bargaining. We're willing to do that in some fashion, so your folks in a couple pay periods, could get some additional money in their paychecks. That's why we came here 4 weeks ago with the authority we had, because we know it's important to put something in the employees' pockets now.
Okay, anybody else?
And what we proposed was a livable wage. There's no way our folks are gonna stay for that 2.7 million. People are telling me every day, I'm leaving. And I'm sure you're hearing that too. So you're giving us that little Band-Aid when we need that big Band-Aid. It's just demoralizing for folks. And they're worth so much more, and you all know it. And we need to come up with a better deal.
And there's no argument. In fact, I can't say it better than Dr. Desmore said it, so I'm not gonna try. There is no doubt that we agree on the same thing. We are literally talking about timing. That's what we're talking about tonight. And the authority that we currently have as a team to bargain. I just really don't wanna leave here with you leaving $2.7 million on the table. Not that it's going anywhere, because it's not. But I think it's important in a couple pay periods to get that in people's pockets.
I see Rod's hand up. Go into our lease.
Yes. If we are in agreement, if the district wants the same thing that we want, then, Jonathan let you guys know what we want. That 2.7 million is nothing. Everybody here is wearing red tonight, and the reason why they're wearing red, because that represents the blood of our people, support staff, that's selling their plasma every 3 days just to make extra money. That $2.7 million that y'all are offering is only pennies in their paycheck. Jonathan actually went over everything with you guys when he said, and Jonathan, you did explain everything very clearly, that you can do the study, but we want the, Jonathan, what was the total amount?
Like 8.5 million.
We want the 8.5 million, because the 2.7 million is only gonna be a couple of dollars in our people's pocket. So you can sit there to our next bargaining session and say that you're trying to get money in our people's pocket. They will not even see it. It's only a couple of dollars. They will not see that money. People in this district is selling their plasma to feed their children. They are making more money selling their plasma than they are in their paychecks. So I want Lee County to be the first district in the United States, okay, to pay their people a decent salary. These are not decent salaries. We have people calling us crying. We have people getting evicted every day. We have said for the last 3 years, our people are homeless. If they're not homeless, they're on their way to being homeless. The 2.7 million is not gonna get it. All right.
Like I said before, if it comes to respect, we have to look at that percentage and understand we don't feel like that's respecting us. And I don't take this as being disrespectful, because that's not who I am as a person. It's just, I'm being honest. And when we got people that we got people that have been in the district 12 years that make $21,000 a year. The average rent a year is over $30,000 a year. So you work a job to still fall short on your rent. So you do have to go to work another job, which it takes away from the kids because now the kids see you tired. So how do you do that and still function? You can't. So many people are trying to pull this to keep it together and making $21,000 a year, working a full-time job. That's kind of insane. So we have to do better for all of us, because the more people leave, the worse it becomes. And how do we make up for that? We can't make up for that. You're gonna ask people to do extra work or do even more work. They're gonna walk away also because they can't. You gotta be able to live. I said before, this profession was respected when I was growing up. Now, it's nothing.
All right, anybody else for a story or?
I'm speaking on bookkeepers. Bookkeepers do a lot in the district, and we're going through them a lot, and I've gotten a few stories here. And one of the stories is this person didn't feel it would be their time. They've worked with the district over 15 years. And, excuse me, hold on a sec. They really love their job. They come to work every day, and they just feel, and they have years of accounting experience, which is huge when you're a bookkeeper because it's helpful because we're dealing with district side and internal side. But the hours that they put in, they give their time, and they just feel that they aren't being respected, and they're feeling that by January they're gonna have to leave because they can't afford, or they'll have to live in their car because they can't afford their rent. They feel they're making the same rate as our cafeteria workers, and they just can't afford. And they go to work every day and love the people, love the administration, and it's just getting really harder and harder, and they're putting in, some of them put in over 40 hours, almost 80 hours. I mean, I know for myself, I put in a lot of time. And there's other areas that they checked into, they're making $3 and $4 more an hour, And another bookkeeper, they mentioned that they had to drop a day because working one day somewhere else, they were making twice the amount of money. And they needed to pay their bills, feed their children. So the community's hurting out there, our people for the district, and we need to keep our people. To retrain these people that come in, it's really, really hard. So I hope that we can come to some kind of conclusion here. That's the stories I'm being told. That's the problem.
Yeah, in response to the bookkeepers, we do hear often from principals about the high turnover rate of bookkeepers and also some of what you just mentioned. We do, as a district, have an interest in potentially taking the bookkeepers to market rate. That is one of our interests. Not an option at this point, but something that we have discussed from the district side.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? We're repeating a lot of stuff, but Jonathan? Yeah.
Thank you. We understand that you don't have the authority right now to, oh, there you are. You don't have the authority right now to go above the $2.7 million. 2.7 is already on the table. You understand our hesitation to accept that today because we don't want it to end there, and we think it very well might. What we're asking for is a commitment from your team. You guys got a caucus and talk about your stuff, I understand, to go to the board and say, look, here's what they want. We hope you increase our authorization to offer them this 8%. It's already in your budget. And could you commit to that, to asking the board for that authorization? Take a stand for these employees.
Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, great question. What I can commit to do is have an executive session and tell them what you have requested. Absolutely. I'm one person sitting here, so I got you. But I can make the commitment to meeting with the board, absolutely.
All right. And, Carly?
I have a question. So what will be the total amount that you let them know that we are requesting? I just want to make sure we have the amount correct.
What Mr. Tuttle conveyed was an additional 5.7 million, which would bring the total to 8.4 million, which is about 8%.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions, clarifications? Anybody caucus, or do we want to put some options up here? Rob?
Yeah, I think we have a bargaining schedule for a reason. I mean, I think, I'm real happy about the presentation tonight, so I think that's important for me to reiterate and provide us more information so we can go forward. So it's just the way this process works at this point.
So we do have the option that this original bargaining authority, $2.7 billion.
And we're prepared to bargain that tonight. I mean,
And we
so.
also have their option to having it at 8.4 million, an 8% increase. So those are two options we have out there. We just haven't written them down yet because we said ask not to write them yet.
Well, I mean, their option is not something I can agree to. So, no, or, yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's something that will be presented to the board.
You want to write it out there, just so it's out there.
I think we're going to caucus.
Okay.
Which means we'll go back to the room we were in outside.
Just tell if you're going to, SPALC, you're going to caucus? Okay. Do we have a time frame? 15? Okay. Felt that a little bit? Okay. SPALC decided not to caucus, so I just need a report from you, Rod.
Sure, maybe fairly lengthy because we want to throw some options up there also. We met to discuss where we were at as a result of the previous conversation about the $2.7 million and the presentation by Jonathan. So we have a number of options that we would like to put up.
Okay.
The first one is an unequivocal commitment to come back to the bargaining table in March of 2024 after the salary study or during the salary study. It doesn't matter. We will make a commitment to reconvene in March. So then we have some other options regarding the $2.7 million. Option one, option two, or four,
Four.
okay? What's up there already?
The 2.7 million.
All right, so that's what, okay,
That's up there.
okay.
An additional 5.7 million for a total of 8.4 million. And just the one you just told me about, the commitment to go back in
Yeah.
2024.
Okay, so we have a couple of others. One would be 2%, and then a hygiene supplement for the instructional support floaters. In the amount of $500.
Okay.
What number are we on?
4.
Okay, 5, 2%, and bringing the bookkeepers to market rate.
Bookkeepers to market rate.
Option 6, okay. This is based on years of continuous service in the district. Those in years 1 through 10 would see a 2% increase. Those with 11 plus years would see a 4% increase. And that's it for now.
Okay. All right. Anybody need, I think they're pretty clear, but does anybody need any clarifications on any of those options?
So one was the 2.7 million.
Oh, I see, the commitment to coming back was option
3.
3, okay.
Bargaining tables.
Thank you.
Rod?
Another one I forgot to put up there.
Okay. Number 7.
Yeah, and this wouldn't encumber all of that money, but number 7 is $50 per day for SPALC employees that cover classes.
So that would be in addition to the 2% along with, like, the hygiene one?
No, it's just by itself as an option. That could be part of a straw
That could
design.
be part, okay, got it. All right. Yes, go ahead, Laura. Yes. Wait for the mic, please. It's coming.
The last one that you just brought up, where was it? $50 a day for SPALC employees who cover classes. Who are those employees? Paras?
Instructional support typically, but it could be other folks in the school also. This is basically the same language with a different amount, similar to the MOU that just expired.
Okay. And that's volunteer, right? I mean, you don't have to be forced to.
Correct.
Okay, just checking. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Clarifications needed. All right, let's think of our interests. Our interests were recruitment and retention, employee morale, a living wage, stability in your building, quality of work, manageability, clarity, and respect for our interests that we need to measure those options against. Anybody have any additional options? Rob?
Yep, I do have one more.
Okay, I'm gonna roll tonight.
Okay, this would be 3% for the following groups: safety, specialists in attendance, clinic attendance, and maybe, is it clinic assistant or attendant? It's assistant, I think. Yeah. LPNs, head custodians, assistant managers in food service, and interpreters for the deaf and hard of hearing. And the remainder of the unit would receive 2%.
Okay, did everybody get that one? That's kind of squished in there. Amy was running out of room, so would you? Yeah, thank you. I know some people are trying to copy them down.
3% for safety specialists and attendants. Clinic assistants, LPNs, head custodians, assistant managers in food nutrition services, FNS, interpreters for deaf and hard of hearing. And the remainder of the unit is 2%.
Okay. We now have 7 options up there. Anybody have any questions or any clarifications they need? All right, any additional options? Rob? Okay. All right, seeing no additional options. Yes, Deborah?
Maintenance would fall in the categories where we talk about a SPALC-wide or a unit-wide increase.
Or the option with the years, right? Would include maintenance.
Yes, anything that doesn't single out specific positions.
All right, anything else? No further discussion on any of these?
Yeah, I just need Amy to clarify number 6.
Okay.
That should say continuous years of service, yes.
Okay, thank you. Arlene? See the mic in your hand.
Yeah, can you turn that around?
Sure.
And let me just look at it again, because it looked like, instead of, it looked like we went down like a 0.5%. So actually that 2.7 million was basically a little over 2%. So now all the options are giving us 2%. Oh, okay. I just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Okay. Next step would be to look at the interest of each of the options. We can do them one by one, or if somebody has a straw design or wants to test any of these options, or caucus, discuss any of it. You know, they've already caucused.
I mean, okay,
SPALC's gonna caucus.
Okay,
we're good.
time frame?
Ten minutes?
Okay, Health called for the caucus, so health, SPALC? SPALC?
Okay, yeah, we met a little bit ago, and we've decided that there's no decisions. We can't go any further until we see that the district's going back with more board authority, or executive session, as you call it.
All right, Rob?
Yeah, a little more conversation about our options, and then I just wanted to clarify one thing. Those options that include specific positions, the percentages are based on dividing up the 2.7 million. That's why some of it is less than the 2.5%. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay. Which answers your question, Arliss, about why it went down to 2%.
Oh, yeah, I knew it was no more than the 2.5 million.
Right.
Thank you.
Chris?
I just wanted to say a little something in regards to, all of us here got to see the numbers here today, and to say that, disheartened to think that this has went on for 7+ years now, where we've been held down and wages that went nowhere. We've held in there, but I mean, I can look at that budget report year after year, years previous, and it looked like they had ample money to make these people whole. And even now, we're only asking to be made whole. But we're so far behind every position here, extremely far behind. I mean, for a world-class school system, this doesn't seem like it's cutting it.
That was all for your, it was all for your project report. Okay. All right, so Ralph would like to end this evening at this point. That was their caucus report. They said they can't go any further until we go back to more authority. And you said you would probably be meeting this week.
That's correct, and our next session's the 25th, right? Yep.
So is everybody all right with calling it an evening tonight?
No.
Again, look at the minutes from tonight when you get them, and look at all the options. Don't forget our interest. And with that, thank you. Oh, Chris?
Real quick, is that September 25th, correct?
Yeah.
That's a holiday? Yom Kippur?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I mean, we can reschedule to the next day, 26th.
Will the 26th work for people? 26th. 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 Instead of 25th, because it is Yom Kippur. Lois?
Wednesday, the 27th work?
Yeah, I think so.
27th, work better?
Yes.
Okay.
That's fine, yeah.
Okay, let's go with the 27th then, which is a Wednesday. And hopefully this room will be available. I don't want to go back.
Yes, indeed.
All right, thank you for those of you who gave up an evening to come. Thank you, team, and we can move on to the